everybody, welcome back to my channel. So few things, didn't even finish my sentence. Welcome back to the channel. Few things, we're in a new background. I don't know if I like it until I edit this video. So that's that. Also, I'm using a new microphone. I'm just testing some things. So if the audio is not good for this video, I do apologize. It will be fixed by next video. I'm just testing some things out, is what I'm basically saying. Let me know how you feel about it all. Anyways, welcome back. What's going on? Are you alright? Brilliant. So for today's video, I sat down last night. I was typing away. I was booked. I was busy. I'm a busy woman these days. Alright, I am. I was really interested by the question of who had it worse in Pretty Little Liars out of the liars. And a lot of these I've seen are who had it worse out of the liars when it came to A. But I'm kind of going to do the show as a whole. And not only when it came to A, but also when it came to the show. Now, it's really interesting because in my mind, before I put this together, Hannah, for me, was the one who probably went through the most on the show. But when I was putting this together, I have totally changed. Hannah's up there completely. But personally, I think the person who had it worse was, I forgot, Emily, in my opinion, really went through it on the show. And when I was putting everything together, I was like, wow, okay, right. Oh, okay. Do you know what I mean? It's also super interesting. I'm like giving you the answers already. It's super interesting because Spencer, although you would assume she's high up on my list, Spencer's actually third on my list when it comes to going through things on the show. Even though Spencer goes through a lot. And like, listen, this list is very like, when I'm putting them on this list, they all clearly suffer and they all clearly go through it. Just because one is like higher up, like more higher up than the other, doesn't mean like, oh, it's unvalid, I don't care about what you went through. But they all went stuff. But Hannah, Emily, and Spencer specifically went through the most on the show. And Arya is a really interesting one because Arya, honestly, apart from the Ezra thing, like, there was nothing really long-term about Arya's kind of what she experienced on the show. But everything else with the rest of the girls, like, it was just so, they went through it. Do you know, like, they went through it at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? So I've kind of delved into each character and I'm going to go through kind of like what they went through on the show and why I've put them where I have, basically. Number one on my list, I think the person who, or should I start from the bottom? No, we'll start from number one. Let's not be boring. Let's be adventurous. Number one on my list, sorry, I have a really itchy nose. Number one on my list is Emily. I think Emily went through the most on the show. Not necessarily, I think A did a lot to her. There's two different answers to this. If we're focusing solely on who had it worst out of A, I would probably say Hannah. But this is like overall show. So I think Emily overall, I think she really went through it on the show. Kind of like a lot happened early seasons. And although I think Emily was probably the most boring out of the liars because the writers were so, they just gave her tragedy after tragedy. I want some development in there. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I've done a whole Emily video if you like, check that out. But yeah, overall, I think Emily. So obviously, we're kind of like starting off the whole Ben thing when she was like basically assaulted by Ben, who is a complete weirdo, a complete freak. Look, Ben, if you want to beef someone, beef me, okay? Don't ever, okay? Don't ever do that again, alright? So that straight away off the bat is like, okay. Oh, okay. And then kind of straight after that, we have her whole, there's a Toby thing, actually, I mentioned that before. Obviously, Toby ends up becoming a nice guy, and they end up becoming friends, but at the start of the show, Emily kind of becomes friends with Toby, and everyone's like, what are you doing? What's going on? Like, why are you being friends with Toby for? Because that was when the whole Jenna thing was going on. But then at the homecoming, I think it was homecoming, or it was one formal dance thing. They had that whole chase where like Emily thought Toby was gonna kill her. It's like that is like a really traumatic thing too, and like being knocked unconscious. No, guys, listen, because I am prone to fainting here and there, and being unconscious is the weirdest thing ever. Like, it's actually crazy. Like, you wake up. This one time I was at work and I was like not really too well that day, and long story short, I ended up fainting. And I work at the school that I went to when I was a teenager for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. So it was embarrassing because my old teacher caught me like before I hit the floor, and I woke up, I was like, what's going on? Long story short, being unconscious is the weirdest feeling in the world. It is actually quite traumatic, because after that, like, I could feel my body like slip into a darkness, and I was like, oh, what is this? And it's actually very traumatic. So I'm speaking from experience. Being unconscious is very traumatic. I do not recommend it. Don't recommend it at all. Emily's story revolved heavily around her sexuality, kind of throughout the show, but mainly in season 1 and 2. That was a huge focus for the show, and I actually really enjoyed Emily's character at this time. I think it was very I think a lot of teenagers watching that show would have really appreciated the story of kind of like coming to terms with kind of your sexuality, but also taking your time and, you know, coming out when you want to come out, and you know, all of that. So she goes through a really hard time dealing with her sexuality. And on top of this, she had Alison yapping in her ear all this time, trying to gaslight her, like pre-disappearance, about her sexuality. Oh my god, Emily, who are you actually? And things like that. Like, Alison, let her do it. No, because no, listen to me. I do believe in girl boss gaslight gatekeep, but this is enough gaslighting, okay? Enough's enough. You can gaslight a man, gaslight another woman, and that's where we draw the line. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, sorry, so off topic. I had a tooth fell out, yes. Sorry. The text I just got. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh my goodness. What was I saying? Oh, I had a tooth fall out. One of my teeth fell out yesterday, and it's kind of the tooth I chew with. So I think we have a problem, but I'm just choosing to ignore it. So my mouth feels very weird. So off topic. Sorry. I do have a bit of ADHD in me. I can't. Anyway, yeah, Emily's battle with sexuality. You have Alison gaslighting her about it and kind of like, you know, pushing her to kind of forcefully come out, that type of thing. But also you have Pam's reaction to it, and I think that was a real battle for her, and Pam kind of coming to understand it. And although Pam came to accept it and loved her at the end, Emily had a huge battle with Pam's understanding of it. And Pam basically sent Maya away, which had a butterfly effect of Maya dying, which we will get onto, don't you worry. Don't worry about that, we will get onto that, absolutely. But Pam was very, very mean to Emily about her sexuality, and she said to Emily that she made her sick and things like that, and it was a real hard time coming to terms with that, I think, and that was a real struggle for Emily. Luckily, Emily had comfort in her dad, who we will get onto later on, don't worry about that. But her dad didn't believe in it, or like it wasn't in his beliefs or something, but like he was like, look, my daughter's alive, she's happy, she's healthy, and that takes priority. So he kind of put that aside and was like, yeah, Emily comes first. So luckily she did have comfort in her dad, but I think having that kind of battle with her mum was such a big thing on Emily's shoulders. Then we have Maya's death, and Maya's death I will yap about forever. I've done multiple videos on that if you'd like to check that out. Maya's death was such a point in the story where I was like, Emily, I'm so sorry. Like, especially because they paralleled the way they found Alison's body to the way they found Maya's body. And it was like Emily's two like loves in her life have like been found dead. I know Alison's not dead, but whatever. In like kind of similar circumstances. And Maya was somebody that Emily really needed in her life, and also really taught her a lot of things, I think, and was really patient with her, and, you know, with Emily, and coming to terms with Emily's, you know, how Emily felt about her sexuality and things like that. Maya was always quite patient with her regarding that, and Maya is exactly who she needed. Maya dying obviously was such a big part in Emily's life, and yeah, that I like can't imagine that, to like, that's wild. After Maya's death as well, Emily kind of really falls off the rails a bit. She turns to drinking to kind of help deal with it. But then we have the thing where like she's drugged and she digs up Alison's grave and like the body is gone, and then because she was drugged she can't remember what happened. So I think that's like the scariest thing. Like, I've heard so many stories of people, you know, going out and getting things in their drinks and just not remembering anything and having to put the night together and things like that, and like I think that's such a scary thing. So I think for Emily to go through that and kind of not really know what happened or what she did, but she knows something happened, I think is really, really scary. She was also killed? Nuh-uh. She was also like nearly killed multiple times. Cece tried to kill her by like locking her in the box. She nearly got run over. The dollhouse, obviously, Nate tried to kill her as well. And then I think it was Mona that tried to give her like carbon monoxide poisoning. The elevator thing as well, she almost died in the elevator shaft thing. Like, oh my god, when A drove into her house and like ran Pam over, well, not really, but kind of. Sorry, what? First of all, your mother, A, is targeting your mother now, and second of all, that is a expensive house repair, Emily. I'm very sorry. That is expensive. Do you know what I mean? She also killed Nate by accident, and I know it was like self-defense, manslaughter, I guess, but like I couldn't imagine taking a human life and also in that way, like as a self-defense, as an accident thing. I wish they played on that trauma a bit more, because I think taking a human life, like, I can't fathom the thought of like the guilt and the feeling of it. So I do wish they kind of played on her trauma a bit with that, because I feel like that just kind of got like pushed over. You would be so traumatized, I'm sorry, like, especially if it was like self-defense and like it was a thing of like you had to. She also had to give up swimming after her injury, and swimming was the one thing that Emily had to really kind of cope with a lot of things. And I feel like everybody has their one thing that is like theirs. Do you know what I mean? I am such a creative person, so my things are always kind of like little like creative hobbies, painting. I really like knitting and crocheting. I'm really boring, but like those are my things. Playing The Sims, those are my things. Like, so Emily had her thing that would help her get through the really traumatic times in her life, and that just kind of got taken away. And like she just couldn't do it again, which was really, I think, damaging to her life, career-wise, but also mentally. All of her partners as well were just not it. I didn't like Emily and Alison together. Then she had like Paige. Paige tried to literally drown her. Who else? The married woman, and then Samara. Like, Sarah Harvey? Need I say more about Sarah Harvey? Like, all of her partners were just so dull, and so like I want her with someone else. I want her with Maya. Her dad then also died. So that means all of the people she found comfort in, Maya died, her dad died. She didn't really have anybody. She obviously had like her mom and things, but I don't think she was like as close with her mom as she was with her dad. I think she loved her dad. Like, honestly, like a girl and her dad, the bond they have, I have such a good bond with my dad. I always have. I'm a daddy's girl. That's just how it is. If you're fortunate enough to experience that bond, it's something that's just so sacred there. And I think I really resonate with Emily and her experience with her dad, and kind of as soon as that's taken out, it's like, okay, what do I have now? Like, one of my biggest fears is my dad dying, and it's really deep and it's really personal, but it's like, that's my person that I go to when I need a little bit of a mental health break or a mental health check, or um that's my dad. Do you know what I mean? So I really sympathize with Emily when it came to this, because I think as soon as that person is out of your life, that is such a big thing. Do you know what I mean? And then we get to season 7, and Emily donated her eggs to make some money, and A ended up impregnating Alison with Emily's eggs and Ren's bits as well. I think this gets casted over so much, because when you think about it, how uncomfortable is that? Like, it's just really uncomfortable to think that like that was a thing that happened. And I think people were so caught up in the, oh my god, Emily and Alison, they're having a family. Yeah, but also Emily has just totally got violated there in a way that's just really uncomfortable, because there was no consent from anyone involved apart from like A. And I think that's just such an like, Emily her whole life has had other people kind of dictating her life and dictating her sexuality, who she likes, who she doesn't like, and things like that. And she can't even have peace when it comes to her own kind of body and things like that. And I don't know, I think that's a shame for Emily, to be honest. I'm probably missing more. I'm probably going to miss a few from each of these character lists. But like, just thinking of everything that Emily went through there, like, I sympathize with her so much. Like, so much. Like, and truly, like I said, before I started kind of putting all of these lists together, I thought from the top of my head, Hannah was the one who went through the most. But when you really think about Emily, like, I feel like Emily's life has never been Emily's life. Like, I feel like she's never had the opportunity to take her life and enjoy it for what it is, and not have other people involved somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So I feel I sympathize with her a lot in that aspect. But now we move on to person number 2, which I think person number 2 is Hannah on the list. I think Hannah then went through kind of the most on the show. Hannah's whole family situation was a struggle for a long time for Hannah on the show. Obviously her dad, the way we just went from Wayne to Hannah's dad, like, it's night and day. Like, it's literally the dads, like, the difference is like crazy. Like, Hannah's dad was never there for her, and when Hannah's dad left Ashley and Hannah for another woman and another child, he no longer paid child support, which meant that Ashley and Hannah really, really struggled financially. We have the thing where A kind of blackmails Hannah regarding the money in the lasagna box, as iconic as that text was. The family dynamic is tough, and Hannah's dad only really comes back into Hannah's life when Hannah's kind of done something wrong rather than right. And when Hannah does something right, like, Hannah went to him to ask if he can help pay for her college. And he was like, oh, I didn't plan on you going to college. I'm paying for Kate's, but I can't pay for yours as well. And it's like, okay, Right. I really, really despise this man. Just like I can sympathize with Emily having a really nice dad, I could not imagine not having that bond. And I feel so grateful and so fortunate that I have that bond with my dad. So if I ever had Hannah's dad, I'd be like, well, just be a parent. Do you know, I just don't know how hard it is. Anyway, so obviously Kate gets introduced into their lives, and everything with Kate was always a competition because Hannah's dad really loved Kate, I think, more than Hannah, and Hannah obviously didn't like that because Hannah's his biological child. So everything was very much a competition for a long, long time, and she obviously wanted to be better than Kate at everything and things like that. And you know, there's a storyline where someone takes photos of Kate naked and spreads it around, and Hannah gets the blame for it. And then at the party, when she like vomits on the wedding dress and things like that, like Kate sets her up a lot to look dumb. Talking of dumb, Hannah is known across the show to be the dumb one. And I felt really bad for her at times because sometimes I think she had really good ideas. Sorry, I took a break. Know what you made me. Take it away, Ariana. Why not? Don't know where that last clip cut off. My camera died. So, whatever I was waffling about there. Anyway, obviously then, Alison tormented Hannah for like the majority of her life when it came to her weight. Which is insane because like Hannah wasn't even fat like that. Like that's just like, I don't understand that. But and I think that stayed with Hannah for like the majority of the show because when Alison came back, Hannah had a real issue with her image and not wanting to look like Alison. And also when she had the whole thing with Sean, she didn't think she was good enough. And I think that was a relative theme that kept up with Hannah throughout the entire show. And Alison really triggered her ED as well, and the way she had lost the weight as well. And I think this is so traumatizing, and so like I just can't imagine it. Like one of the really traumatizing times actually was the whole cupcake thing that happened when A blackmailed Hannah into eating all the cupcakes. I think that was so traumatizing for Hannah. I cannot fathom, like that was just like horrible. Like that was just nasty stuff. Like that really, I don't know, I sympathize with Hannah a lot. I think we have dealt with similar issues before, and to see her go through that after she opens up about kind of, you know, her issues regarding that, like it's so, like I sympathize with her so much. Wilden is also super creepy towards Hannah. For a while, I think he openly tries to go against Hannah because obviously Hannah and Ashley and Wilden have like their little thing, and then Wilden kind of like not becomes obsessed with her, but I feel like he's just like always there, and I think he took her safe space, and he was just so annoying. Please find a proper job or just get out of the house. Please, I'm begging you. Then obviously the main thing of like Mona was quite literally her best friend and turned out to be A. When you find that you know, your best friend has been the person who has targeted you and your friends and kind of put you back through a lot of hell, targeted your mum, targeted your ED, targeting just so many things about Hannah and her life and ruining it. When you find out that's your best friend, like I can't imagine that. And I think it was really hard for Hannah then to kind of like have like her person. I feel like Mona was her person in season 1 and 2. Lucas, obviously she was friends with for a while until Lucas actually turned out to be working for the A team. So that's another thing she's gone through on the show. She didn't really have her person. I guess she had Caleb to talk to about things, but she would have to keep things from Caleb to kind of keep him safe. So I feel like after the whole Mona thing, she didn't really have like that one person in her life. You know, just like the first person that you would go to when you would have a struggle or you know, a best friend or whoever. But with her, dad out of the picture and her Mona being out of the picture, I guess, as well. She had Ashley, but she didn't really want to like bombard Ashley with her stuff because Ashley was going through her own stuff as well. So I felt like Hannah lacked having like that person in her life. Also, sorry, Mona also tried to kill Hannah as well, like running her over. So this was a point I saw where the second Cece went after Hannah because the girls didn't miss Hannah enough. I don't think Hannah had any reason to miss Alison. And I think she was probably the one out of the liars to benefit the most with Alison gone. So that's also another thing. Like, being targeted because you don't miss the girl who kind of like bullied you, that's like just so invalidating. Do you know what I mean? Caleb and Hannah were a really, really good thing, and I really liked their relationship. It was my favourite relationship on the show. Things were very happy and healthy. It seemed like Hannah had her person, but then it got revealed that Caleb was working with Jenna to kind of spy on Hannah. They did actually fall in love properly, but like at the start it was like purely for money. Then like Ashley got set up for Wilden's murder, and then Mona got murdered, and then I think Hannah went to prison for it as well and like was set up for it. So she's going through it. She is going through it at this point. One of Ella's really creepy boyfriends, not Byron, the other one, Zach, he ended up hitting on Hannah. And then when Hannah was like confiding in Arya about it, Arya like blamed her, called her a slut, said she ruins everything. I still hold a grudge because of that with Arya. Your friend has the confidence to speak out and you're like slut shaming her for it. Like, I know Arya apologized or whatever, but like I feel like that would still stay with you. Like, your friend said those things about you. Like, that was just so unnecessary and so mean from Arya. Everyone she knew kind of like stabbed her in the back. Like Caleb, Mona, Lucas, like she actually really never had her person, her. She went to prison for Mona's death, but then got tortured in the dollhouse. But then when it comes back to AD obviously kidnapped her, tortured her, and then Hannah accidentally killed Archer. So Hannah went through a lot. This was like why I, before researching, was like, yeah, Hannah definitely went through the most on the show, things like that. Because like she goes through so much, like, and it's like it's mentally traumatizing things too. So yeah, Hannah, bless her, she really goes through it. I really sympathize with Hannah. I think I have a lot of similarities with Hannah. So then we move on to Spencer. Now I feel like Spencer would be everybody's top choice for like, you know, Spencer went through a lot on the show, probably like the most. But honestly, Spencer's stuff, although it's life, this is gonna sound so crazy, although it's life altering, I feel like she moves past this stuff very quickly because it's things that kind of like happen and like we're moving on, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm not trying to invalidate what she went through a lot. I sympathize with her completely, but she seems to overcome most of the stuff quite quick and like easy, which kind of, I think, not downplays it, but like in that sense, do you know what I mean? She obviously grew up in a very toxic household. Her dad raised her family in a way that was very like, you have to be perfect, and like everything was a competition between Melissa and Spencer, and there was a lot of issues that came from that in total. And obviously I think the competition aspect led to kind of the inappropriate relationships that Spencer had. The men that targeted her were just so weird. They were the sister's boyfriend. I think Spencer gave in because she wanted to kind of like, I guess, win over Melissa, but then these men openly went out of their way to target Spencer. They knew she was kind of like an easy target, I guess, if that makes any sense. So the overall family aspect is very messed up in Spencer's life. We obviously get the introduction of Jason is her brother, but then later on in the show we obviously have the whole Mary Drake is her mum. She has her evil twin sister who is AD. And Cece is also her sister as well, which means she's like cousins with Allison. So like her life, like her family life gets flipped completely. But she seems to deal with the Mary Drake stuff quite well. I think she has a lot of unresolved business with Alex Drake. I think there is a lot there which I think would burden Spencer a lot. But the whole Mary Drake stuff, like Spencer, I don't know, she seemed to react like kind of okay. Not okay with it, but like just interested in Mary Drake and her life rather than like malicious towards it. I don't know. But obviously, like, the whole evil twin thing, like, that is a massive part of your life. Like, literally another part of you has, first of all, exists. And second of all, has been the person to traumatize you and your friends. Like, I think she has a lot of unresolved business with Alex, to be honest. Just answers, really. Like, answers that are just beyond, you know, why were you A? I think she has a lot of unresolved stuff there, which is an issue. Melissa was like very weird towards Spencer. Like literally like one scene they would be like best siblings. Oh my god, love you girl. But then like the next scene Melissa would just go straight back to being cold towards her. I'm like, can you make up your mind? Do you like me or do you not? Like it just like Melissa was so weird towards her. Like her whole family kept so many secrets from her. And I think truly Spencer did feel kind of like the black sheep of the family. Like she wasn't really told a lot of things. The family clearly kept secrets from her, like that type of thing. They really pushed her out. Once again, she was almost killed multiple times. Nearly killed by Ian in the church, Wilden on the Halloween train. Like she went through it with a lot of men on this show. Like they were just so horrible to her. Like relax. Toby, her boyfriend, who she really fell madly in love for, ended up working for the A-team, and when Spencer found out, she went kind of down a really dark route. She had a problem with addiction before, and she really went down that type of like dark route and ended up going to Radley, and then she ended up joining the A-team as well. Troyan's acting during this time, by the way, wow. Sorry, I got it mixed up. Toby fakes his death, and then that's when Spencer goes to Radley, because she literally finds like her dead boyfriend's body. She just goes off the rails. She joins the A-team once she finds out Toby's on the A-team. Sorry, I got it mixed up. But yeah, she like thought her boyfriend had died. Hello? How traumatizing is that? Then she was also framed for Allison's murder. And similar to kind of like when Emily was drugged, Spencer didn't really know what happened that night to the fullest, but it felt like everybody around her knew and like no one was telling her. And I feel like that would drive me insane. Like my best friend has been murdered. I keep having flashbacks of when I was there that night with her. My family are clearly keeping something from me. Did I kill her? I think it would drive you insane. So I think that was a really hard thing for her to go through. But like I said, not to downplay Spencer's hard doings on the show. This whole list is not, you know, ranking them in order. It's not supposed to be a thing of like invalidating this liar and this lie is, it's like a competition. It's not like that. But, you know, I think Spencer dealt with a lot of things well. I think she was a very, very strong woman. I really, really liked that aspect of her. So then we move on to the least. And this is Arya. Arya was A's favourite and never really targeted Arya. And when A did target Arya, it was often to benefit her. Like when A told her, like when A exposed the affair between Byron and Meredith, it honestly benefited Arya. Then also when Ezra's, I forgot the name of Ezra's, like, one of Ezra's girlfriends comes back. I forgot the name. But A is like, oh yeah, mess with her right now and get her out of your way. Literally benefiting Arya. Like, I feel like Arya was never really at harm of A. However, I do sympathize massively with Arya's whole thing with Ezra. I think she was completely manipulated, and it was really a vile relationship, if I'm being honest. And Ezra would get really annoyed with Arya when Arya was talking to boys around her age or anything like that. I feel like Arya was never able to be who she wanted to be because of the Ezra relationship, and it is pure gaslighting and manipulation. And another word that I probably can't use on YouTube, starts with a G. And I really sympathise with that, because the lack of care from her parents and her friends, but also the world, people in Rosewood should have been like, what the hell is that? Letting them get married in the end. I think Arya was let down massively by the world in that aspect. But honestly, apart from like the Ezra stuff and like the family situation that was going on, and first of all, the family situation between Meredith and Byron, that kind of gets resolved and Ella and Byron get back together. Like, that's not really a long-term thing. It gets Mike into a little depression thing, and I really sympathize with Mike on that aspect. But apart from like that, there was never really, there was the Halloween train where like she was almost killed by A, but everything with Arya was always almost. Like, she was almost caught out with Ezra on that date. She was almost killed. Like, I feel like it's never, like, she almost didn't get married. Like, she almost lost Ezra. Nothing really with Arya felt like, oh, I'm worried about Arya and like her life and like what's at stake. I didn't feel it with Arya, to be honest. Like, she wasn't really targeted by A. Everything, like, she, even in the dollhouse, she got a haircut and had to dye her hair. Right? So that is it for my little ranking of kind of who had it worse, but also just an evaluation of like what the liars went through and things like that. Once again, this is not a competition of who had it worse, or, you know, this liar, I'm going to invalidate their feelings. Nothing like that. But I'd love to hear your opinion down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.